Okay, I'm trialing, ladies and gents, some new software today for my live stream. So please let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, if the camera looks good today. Just let me know in the chat, and also let me know where you're watching from today. I always love to know where you are watching from. Good. We got some good questions today. We got about 14, 15 questions coming in. Malaysia, okay, good. Where else everyone from? Yeah, we are ready. And remember, this monthly Q&A, it doesn't always have to be about finance. If you've got some economics questions, you can ask those as well. Everyone just tends to ask finance questions. But if you've got any questions that are not finance related and they are economics, it could be anything. It could be about food, or it could be about prepping, or anything around that. Just ask those questions and I will answer. Well, we've got everyone right. Dublin, Canada, Cheshire, Spain, Nebraska, Arkansas, England, Portsmouth, Costa Rica. Well, okay, my friend there in Costa Rica, let me start with this. I am actually now no longer in the United States. Long story, but my visa got cut short, so I had to leave the country. And for anyone who's ever traveled American Airlines before, worst airline I've ever been on. I won't even get into the story, but they wouldn't let me get on the flight. So it was a bit of a nightmare situation, but I managed to get out. And I couldn't get into Mexico because they said the borders were closed for 2 days. So my wife and I basically took the map and said, okay, where can we go right now that we can actually get in somewhere? So we basically looked and it said Costa Rica didn't have any restrictions, no COVID test, no nothing. So we hopped on a plane eventually and we went to Costa Rica. So now we're in San Jose in Costa Rica. And it's pretty interesting here. I know some of you on the chat are in Costa Rica, but I didn't know my accommodation here. So we're in a really nice apartment complex. It's got, all the stuff like a gym and a lounge and swimming pool and all that. And I see these armed guards. So we've got armed guards for the whole time. And it made me think, okay, let's just hope it's all good here. But let's start. We've got a few questions. I'm just going to get started in a second now that everyone says you can hear me okay. So good news. Thanks for everyone who shared all the video platforms that you would like me to put channels on. So I just got a message today from brand new Tube. I think it was the founder actually emailed me and said, yeah, come on over. And he started to move my YouTube channel over. So they're going to back it up. Odyssey is going strong. I'm now on BitChute. So that's going to take a week, I think they said, just to copy everything over. So I'm on BitChute and a few other platforms. So Theta TV and Rumble, I haven't heard back from yet, but hopefully I'll be on those as well. So no matter what happens, if my channel does get taken down, at least you can follow me elsewhere. And remember, you can always follow me on the Patreon as well, where I'm in there every single day. Okay, let's get started then. If there's nothing else, let's get started. So the first one is from Laj Rai, and this is in regards to the housing market and rental properties. And it's probably a good thing because I just saw as I was waiting for this to go live, someone was commenting. Again, a lot of people just don't understand. They don't watch the videos. They don't understand even the basics of economics. So, and then I'll answer this question. So I'll give the pretext for the question. If you have a forecast for something, so let's say I give the example of soccer or football, and you kick the ball into the goal, right? Let's say you're stood in front of the goal and you kick it, but there's two opponents on the other side and they're stood by the goalpost. And then as you kick the ball, they lift the goalpost and they walk backwards and put it down. The question is, did you miss your shot or did the goalpost get pushed back? Right? That's the question. So a housing market like the one we're in right now should in theory have crashed, or in practice, should I say. It should have crashed. That is the facts around it. This is mathematics. It's numbers. This isn't emotional. This is numbers, statistics, mathematics. in theory or in practice, it should have crashed. But what happens is when the government or the Federal Reserve or whatever, it's the same in every country now, these central banks, when they keep printing and creating new currency, this actually expands asset prices. Stock market, all-time high. Housing market, all-time high. You've got the crypto market expanding. Look at gold and silver right now, expanding. Look at artwork, NFTs, classic cars, antiques. They are all expanding. Honestly, you would have to be a fool to believe that's a coincidence. I can't even get across how foolish that would be to think that was a coincidence, that in direct correlation to all the new currency creation, that these assets just happen to go up. Oh, what a coincidence it must be. And these are the sort of comments I get all the time. Didn't Neil say the housing market? I've explained it 100 times. When you add currency, it pushes up asset prices. So if you really want to know the truth, look at something like gold and price gold against houses, and then go back 100 years, however long you want to go back, and you'll actually see that the house prices aren't really exploding like you think they are. It's only the values aren't. It's just the prices that are going up. So now with all that context, let's look at this question. Is it a good time to buy a rental property? This is from Laj Rai. So the answer to that is it really depends on your outlook and what you're going to be doing with it. So let's say, I'm advising or recommending to the people in my community that if you're going to do, say, an Airbnb holiday let, where you can make 4 or 5 times the amount that, let's say, compared to buying a house in a city center location or, just the suburbs, if you can get 4 or 5 times the amount of rent each month from doing holiday lets, this is the leisure and tourism industry, then absolutely I would buy a rental property. Because if I'm going to hold that for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or pass it on to my children, it doesn't really matter what the price is. Yes, it's going to keep going up, then it's going to crash down, then in another 15 years it's going to go up, and then it's going to crash down. These are just the cycles. The challenge is buying at the end of a current boom cycle, which I believe we're in. So then you've really got to look at it and say, well, do I just buy and gamble the fact that the housing market could reduce? Because it will have to come down eventually. You look at any chart in the world, and if it goes like that, like straight up like a rocket, what usually happens afterwards is it comes down. This is just simple charting. So I think if you're going to hold it for 20 years, then there's nothing wrong with buying now. But personally, I would wait for a little bit of time. Like, that's what I'm doing. I am going to get into the property market again, and I will get more Airbnb rentals and things like that I personally own. Would I rent to tenants? Probably not. I don't think I would, especially in the UK and some other European countries where you've just been absolutely destroyed by the government, where they won't even let you offset any expenses. You can't offset interest. You can't offset if the toilet breaks. None of these things are expenses anymore. You've got to pay for a lot of this stuff. So would I want to buy a property there for that sort of tenant market where you can't even do evictions and you have to pay the utility bills on behalf of tenants and all that? Probably not. I probably wouldn't want to. But if I was going to do it as an Airbnb, for example, serviced accommodation, then yeah, I would consider it for sure. I just probably wouldn't wait for I probably just wouldn't buy right now. I might wait a year or two. And, there's risk either way you go. If you buy right now, the market could go up another 25% before it comes down. Who knows? No one knows, because it's dictated by central bankers. But at the same time, you could buy now and it could come down 25%, over, because it doesn't come down instantly, you see. It slowly comes down like that. And look at what happened in the Great Depression or the 2008 crisis. It didn't come down like that. It took a long time to come down. But if you look at a major scale deleveraging, like what occurred in the Great Depression, house prices lost 80% of their value. 80%. Stock market, similar, 80%. Do I think that's going to happen next time? It's possible. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. I'm saying anything is possible. What stopped the '08 crisis was the mass QE and everything else that happened, some very good accounting. But it didn't remove the problem, the underlying problem around the financial markets. That still exists. So that's never going to go away, really. Okay, so that was a really good question. Good one to start with. Next question. Do you think crypto is in a bull or bear market? And how do you plan on changing how you invest if we are in a bear market? That is a difficult question. I personally, and this is not a sort of financial opinion, this is just my personal opinion, I think we are still in a bull market in the crypto world. When I charted what happened 2-3 weeks ago, it was pretty obvious to me that the sort of big investment firms, like these are experts, they've been doing it hundreds, if not 1,000 years, some of them, they know how to play the market. So they see this opportunity in the crypto market and know that it's majority amateur investors. It's mainly amateur investors. And they say, well, we know how to manipulate. We know how to do dumps and crash the market down and things like that. So they know how to do this. They'll do a dump and they'll buy back in cheaper and all that stuff. They make huge amounts of profit, right? So I personally think, okay, someone's just said they can't hear, the volume's too low. Is that the same for anybody else? I can't actually turn this up, I don't think. Okay, let me know if you can't hear, guys. I don't know if that's just someone trolling me there, but okay. So that's personally what I think happened. I still think we're in a sort of bull market. I don't think we've gone into a bear market yet. But I do think that we probably will go into a bear market later on in the year. And that's just from charting and things like that. If you do charting and technical analysis, you can see these things. Let me see if there's anything else I can add to that. But I'll tell you what did surprise me. I mean, I actually bought the dip at the very bottom. I won't say live on here, but if you're in the Patreon, you know how much I put in. I put in a huge amount of money, and I bought the dip right at the bottom. So already I've made huge gains on that, even though we haven't had a big recovery yet. And what I'm doing is I'm staking nearly all my crypto. 90% is being staked. Anywhere from, some of them you can only stake at 0.5% per year. Others you can get 60, 70. There's one that's even 100% return per year. So that's my strategy right now. I'm still diversified. I'm not 100% in crypto. I have a percentage of my money that if I lost it, I can afford to lose it, you see. Because remember, my trainings and the Patreon trainings, the foundation is the money coming in at the bottom. You've got to have cash flow from different sources. So that way, even if you lose money on the investment, and luckily I haven't so far in the last 4-5 years, I don't think I've lost, but I probably will at some point. It's just statistical. I probably will lose at some point. That's why I'm diversified. And I have lots of different assets and things like that, and cash flow. So I'm protected no matter what. So that answers that question. Now, crypto. No, this is a different one, actually. This is from Chris G. How do you see the tax situation here in the USA evolving in relation to staked? That's ironic. I just talked about staked crypto as a passive income method. Okay. I think really, Chris, it's too early to say right now how I see it evolving, the tax situation. However, I think currently you'd have to speak to your accountant because it is different in different countries. But the USA currently, I believe that you're staking crypto, so what you earn off that is classed as earnings. So it's like classed as income. You'll be taxed on that. Now, the downside is they now tax it on capital gains as well. So when you sell that crypto, if you make a big gain on it, you have to pay capital gains tax. So there's two things really that's going on with it. You have the income on the staked crypto, and then you have the capital gains on the crypto itself that you staked. So just a couple of things to bear in mind there, especially when you're looking at this and weighing up the risks of whether to do it. And by the way, I don't recommend anyone gets into crypto. I say it's completely your choice. Personally, I think the future is digital. I know we're going to have CBDCs. I know for a fact. I think we're going to have a digital world as we go forward. If you've seen the movie Ready Player One, watch it if you haven't. But I think that is in somewhat the way we're going to go deep into the future. So I think that's covered it all. Yeah, okay, I think I covered that question. Next question is from Callisto. In a potential housing market crash, what percentages of a house's value would you recommend having in cash? What percentage? Recommend having in cash. Okay, I don't understand this question at all. I can't see a link between a housing crash and having cash as a percentage of a house. But let me just answer in a different way then. You never really want to go below a 75% LTV, which is a loan to value. And that is that if there is a crash and you've got a mortgage, and this is why I hate these 95% mortgages that the government's doing, because in the next downturn, those people are going to get stuck. And let's say their house goes down and it's only got, they're underwater. You never want to be underwater. So let's say they've got a 95% mortgage and then the housing market goes down, 10%. Well, you're now underwater on the house. You're not going to be able to refinance because no bank will touch it because they've got a liability there. It's a very big risk. So that's the first thing. But in terms of cash, can you still see me okay? All right, I think my camera just went off, but that's okay. But in terms of actual cash, you always want to have cash available anyway, right? You want to have cash, you want to have precious metals, you want to make sure that you've got these things available. Let me see if there's anything else I can add. No, I think that covers it because there's some other questions that I'm going to answer about precious metals anyway. When the stock market crashes, will the crypto market crash as well or not? This is from Daniel. I think because we've never been in history in this period where we've had a stock market crash at the same time as a crypto market crash, in direct correlation, it's very hard to say. I would rather wait until that situation, and then I'd have the data to be able to, to talk about that. So anything I say is really just going to be a guess at this stage. It's just going to be my best guess. But I would assume, and this is just an assumption, that if the stock market actually came down, the crypto market would come down with it. But again, that is just my best guess. That would be an assumption. Because when people go into this fear mode, this panic mode, everyone's just going to start going to tangible. So remember my other videos, tangible, intangible assets. When money is in large supply and it's growing, people don't care about having tangibles. They really, they'll take a lot more risk and have a lot more intangibles. But outside of that, people want to have these tangible assets. So I think probably what will happen is a lot of people will pull their crypto, they'll sell it, therefore reducing the value, so causing a downward spiral in crypto. And then a lot of people would buy gold, silver, food, all the other stuff, prepping type stuff. They would start to load up on this sort of thing. That would be my assumption. Real estate, property, land. I think that's what would happen, because as I mentioned on my video yesterday, fear actually drives out reason. So I think people would just go back to their fundamental base views on things. Next question is from Forrest Wolf. Gosh, this is a big one again. Try and keep your questions down, my friend. Keep it very short, because this is a big one again. Thought game and question. In the event of multiple wide-scale grid outages lasting over a number of weeks in the key nations, the economies would be triggered into crashes. Access to assets would be near impossible, and absolute chaos would arrive. In order to preserve some asset wealth, physical metals is one asset preservation strategy, but could Bitcoin actually also be an ultimate asset survival strategy, given that the global web will not shut down and Bitcoin can't be destroyed? Geez, you've asked me like to retain 10 different bits of information there, so I'll do my best here. Okay, well, I'm going to be doing a video on cybersecurity at some point anyway, in terms of crashes and all of that. So I'll be going into more detail on this. But if we look at some of the fundamentals of cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin, for example, I personally think, because of the blockchain and the records, even if everything did go down, I mean, if we're talking about a solar flare or something, which I don't think we are, a solar flare is going to wipe out all the electrics anyway, just like it did in the 1800s, took out everything. Is that possible? Yes, NASA even say another solar flare will come in the future. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, anyone, but I think only maybe a Faraday cage or something would protect against that. Maybe a tough book, some sort of technology like that. But if we're not talking about solar flare, and we're talking about this, what's being forecast, World Economic Forum, this big cyber attack that's going to take out the world's financial markets, I have no idea if that's going to happen or not. I have no idea. But then again, we didn't expect a global crisis over the last year either. So really anything is possible these days. But I would say that someone is going to have a generator running. Someone is going to have a tough book. Someone's going to have some sort of way to, once the internet was to get back up, let's just say, the blockchain's still going to be there. All the records will still be there. So I don't think you could lose your cryptocurrency. But if we've got any crypto sort of, programmers online, let me know if, drop a message in the chat there if you think differently. But that would just be my initial common sense thoughts around that. Okay, next one's from Min Trin. Recommending on your monthly investment video on the Patreon not to hold much cash. What is your strategy on how to transfer funds from other investment platforms like crypto to purchase real estate when it crashes? Okay, so firstly, I've got to just correct you on this one point, because I don't say not to hold cash or much cash, because I personally hold about 10,000 in cash at all times in dollars, pounds, euros. So I've always got cash on me, and metal and a few other bits like that. So I've always got, I don't mean on my person, but not too far away, if you get what I mean. So I'd always have some cash. I think it's important to have these things because, like I mentioned, what do they give you as a soldier if you do any sort of, let's say you do any sort of covert work, shall we say, and you're in a different country? What do they give you? They give you dollars, right? They don't say, here's a phone that you can link to this bank account. So if you need to do anything in an emergency, or you need to get out and bug out of a place, you just type into this phone and do a transfer to this guy who's going to help you get out. No, none of that happens. They say, here's cash, here's a big wad of dollars. If you need to do anything, you need to escape or you need to whatever, take this cash, give it to that guy there and he'll get you out. So if it works for the military and it works for, let's say, CIA, MI5, or the other MI6, etc., why would we not follow that guidance? Obviously we would. It's just common sense. So, and by the way, that's not aimed at you there, Min. I'm just saying in general to everyone who thinks that cash is not a good thing to hold. So I rely a lot on what I learned in the military to dictate a lot of how I live these days. But just remember, in terms of, if you haven't watched my bullion allocation video, everyone should watch that. It's called A Guide to Investing in Bullion or Gold and Silver or something. It's on the Silver Investing playlist. So everyone should watch that because it's really good. It teaches you about metals and stuff. But in terms of holding physical metal, you always want to have some. People laugh at me for saying, that for prepping. All the time, poke fun at me and say, oh, this guy, prepping and all this sort of business. These guys are the fools that are going to be taken out in the early days because they're not going to have any survival equipment in the next time. And I don't care if this takes 50 years, right? You always have these cycles. I remember when I was in Kenya, right, when I was in the military, and I was going down the street, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this massive crowd, like one on one side. I don't know what it is, some sort of something political. And these guys literally were killing each other in the street. They were going at it, right, in the street. And I'm right in the middle of this, right? And it was a crazy, crazy situation. But the day before, everything was fine. Everything was perfect. There was no problems. And yet everything escalated really, really quickly. It was like, bang, done. There was this massive riot, and it was just I've never seen anything like it. In all my years in the military, it's crazy, because people say, that was the craziest thing. Yeah, that was the craziest thing I saw. One day people are friends and laughing. The next day you've got this massive riot going on in this town. It was insanity. So people might laugh at me, but it's because they haven't had these experiences that I've had. I've seen the world. This is my 66th country now that I've visited. I've been all over. I've been to different theaters. I've been to, wealthy nations. I've been to impoverished nations. I've been to not violent nations, but dangerous countries as well. So I would just say rely on other people's experience. All right, I was off track there, but I think that's valuable. So, Min, I'm going to get back to your question. How to transfer funds from other investment platforms like crypto to purchase real estate. I think that might be difficult if we did have a big financial crash, which is what everyone's talking about at the moment. That would be difficult to get money from crypto into a house, for example. But look, have you seen now that some transactions, some people have sold their houses in cryptocurrency? Don't believe me? You can go online, look it up. Some people have sold flats, apartments, condos, and houses, land with Bitcoin. Because remember, a contract is a contract. As long as the government get their cut, they don't really care how it's done. But you can actually do transactions with cryptocurrency. So I think I'd probably look at that. That would be my first way of looking at things before I started going, right, I'm going to cash this out. I'm going to transfer it here. I'm going to do this. Or you have a bullion account, like I mentioned. You have a bullion account with the metal in there, and then you would do some sort of a private arrangement. This can be arranged. Look at the Weimar Republic, Germany. You can tell I love my history now. I read everything. What were they doing? They were transacting houses and property and assets in gold. So you could actually do a contract in gold to buy things. Now, of course, this is like doom and gloom, worst case scenario, unlikely to happen. But I'm just giving you, context around all of it. Yeah, okay, good. I think that covers it. But just remember, everyone, the numbers on your bank account screen are just numbers. They are backed by absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. There's nothing backing it. But if you have numbers on a screen and you have a bullion account, right, now the bullion in the vault, the gold and silver, is backing that money. So this is why I don't like putting money in bank accounts. I prefer to hold it in bullion accounts, right? You see the difference here, the distinction. Next question is from Grant Mattis. What are the likely differences between fiat currencies and CBDCs? I can't see governments locking currency supply like most digital currencies, so that just makes it a traceable fiat currency. Okay, I'm going to answer that in a question. I just saw something come through. The prices skyrocket. Okay, I've just got a super chat, so let me just see what this says. Media are spreading throughout this current housing market. Actually, Antonio, I covered that at the start of the video. So if you watch back from the start, I actually covered the media about buying. So watch that. I just covered that at the start. So back to this question then. So what's the difference between CBDCs and fiat? There really isn't much difference, to be honest. If you think about fiat currency, so banknotes, this guy recently wanted to debate me, and he said, "Oh yeah, but banknotes can't be traced, can they? Fiat currency, it can't be traced." I don't know what he's thinking. When every banknote has a serial number, once it goes through a financial intermediary, it's tracked. The banknotes are tracked. Everything is tracked everywhere. I really don't get why these people who think they're experts, they try and debate me on stuff that they haven't got a clue what they're talking about. Anyway, right, every banknote is tracked. It has a serial number, right? Now, is paper, it's fiat. I like fiat in terms of having some paper money like dollars or pounds. I like that when I'm elsewhere because I might need to use it one day. But if you have a CBDC and it's a digital dollar that is controlled and owned by the government, that's going to be a problem. That is going to be a big problem because that will be tracked every single second of every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it's good because it will stop crime. So that's a good thing, obviously. But it's not going to be good in other ways because what happens if something bad does happen? I don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, but if all of your currency, all your money, well, it's not money, it's currency, is controlled by one central bank, one person at the top, right? Like we have Jerome Powell or Janet Yellen, who interesting story around those two. I'm pretty sure they're shareholders of the Federal Reserve. Janet Yellen, print more, just keep printing, just keep going. Yeah, I wonder why. So that's it. There isn't much difference. It's just the tracking that we're talking about here. And again, that's why it's good to hold some cash, hold some precious metals, so that you've always got that as a medium of exchange. Wesley S. is the next question. Loads of crypto questions today. How can cryptocurrency be both decentralized and susceptible to manipulation by whales? Yeah, I think I covered this earlier, actually. They buy and sell in huge amounts. A whale is usually an institution, and they will be managing money. You know, it might be a hedge fund, or it could be anything, basically. It's any financial institution that has a lot of money. They buy and they sell it. They do dumps in huge amounts, buy it back cheaper and all that. They make a profit. They don't care if they make a huge profit or a slither in the middle. So if you're doing millions or tens of millions or even, well, one day it's probably going to be hundreds of millions to billions at a time. It's not right now because we don't really have the market cap for that sort of movement yet. But if they make a slither on that and they're making millions, tens of millions from it, it's worth them doing it, and they're gonna keep doing that. I mean, again, these guys are experts at trading. That is what they do. Oh, I just got the first dislike on the video. I wonder who that is. Paul Cardone. Bye. Just unsubscribe. Go away. Paul Cardone. Do you recommend a garden? You recommended a garden in your last video. Do you see food price inflation or shortages, and why? This, Paul, is something I'm going to come on to in the future as to what I'm tracking and what I see occurring in the future. Actually, do you know what? All right, we need to cancel out that dislike. Everyone get that dislike cancelled out quickly. Let's get the likes going. Good. So yeah, I do see food price inflation continuing. I do. I think it's going to continue on. And again, the media don't show this, but if you actually look at what's happening in the world and you look at different countries, things are very, very bad. You know, the level of starvation and hunger now is just on a record level that I've never really seen to this sort of extent. This isn't being reported, but this is actually going on. What else can I say? You know, globalism is it's everywhere now. We have globalism. So we have this, the food prices, and we have all the supply chains that are broken down. Everything is starting to break down. The supply chains and everything else around it is starting to break down. And I know of a lot of things going on that other people don't know. So some of my clients that I mentor, for example, they do shipping, containers and shipping. And they're saying that, the shipping containers now, the cost where it might have been $8,000 before, sometimes they might have to pay $60,000 because there's simply no containers. It's this supply and demand. Where's it all coming from? A lot of it's coming from the East, right? China is the biggest. The West has dropped the ball, and I think most of you know this. The West has dropped the ball by outsourcing all the jobs, all the manufacturing, everything to China. Because now, look at China's GDP. It's probably one of the only ones in the world that's growing where everyone else's has been shrinking. They are in a perfect position to take advantage of what's going on. Perfect, absolute perfect position. And they're going to grow. And this is why I don't agree with, that it's going to be China in 2030 that's the next superpower. I think 2026 to 2028, they're going to be the next superpower. They'll overtake the USA. Because the USA just doesn't really produce very much compared to some of the things that China produces. And I think it's going to be very, very bad. And of course, we have all the weather. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll probably make a video on this as well. But if you look at the extreme weather going on around the world, this also isn't a coincidence. If you're subscribed to NASA and you watch all the live streams or you watch some of the videos, you'll see what they're talking about with the solar activity now. The sun has gone into a different phase. And we haven't seen this phase for a long time. I won't say too much more on it right now. I don't want to get too controversial, but I think we're going to go into a different phase now with what we're seeing. So yeah, I do recommend growing a garden. I think, why would you not anyway? It's good fun. It's healthy. You can grow your own vegetables. They won't be sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. I think everyone should grow their own garden anyway to get vegetables and things. It just makes sense. Okay, next question is from Mike Knapp. Neil, since there is high likelihood that we would see widespread business and banking failures in a crash, do you see much risk for the companies offering bullion allocation? Thanks. Well, firstly, I think we need to break this down into two parts. Would we see widespread business failures in a crash? I don't know. And here's the reason why. We saw what happened during the last year to, 15 months now that we've been going through. It was the small businesses that got taken out. It wasn't the big businesses. They wiped out all the small businesses, all the entrepreneurs. Remember, 60% of employment is done through SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises. So that's really what happened. We wiped everyone out, or not we, the government policies wiped out all the businesses. Who did they support? Surprise, surprise, the big institutions that don't even pay the tax. Although something was just passed yesterday, so there's going to be a global corporation tax rate, which is a good thing, because it will stop a lot of the profiteering that they get. So that's the first thing we've got to distinguish here. But yes, banking failures will occur. And you know about the bail. If you haven't watched my video on bail-ins, watch that. You have to watch it, because we're going to see bail-ins as well. Okay, bail-ins next time. So will there be a widespread crash in banks and businesses? Yes, but not to the extent that you might think. Most of the businesses have already gone, right? They've crashed, a lot of them. And new entrepreneurs have come in and taken their place, but a lot of them are small to medium-sized enterprise again. So when we go into this next crisis, they're going to get wiped out. They won't get support, just like they didn't in 2008. So it's going to be, we're going to keep seeing more and more of these mergers, huge mergers. This is what we're going to keep seeing. Monopolies, lobbying to politicians, just completely taking over. It's a terrible world we're living in right now with these monopolies that are just taking over everything. Look at what Facebook did, if you don't know. They bought out all the social media companies, hundreds and hundreds of them, with like currency that how did they get that currency? They bought them out and then they just closed them all, liquidated them all, because they didn't want the competition. This is the world we live in now, where a Walmart will come into a town and just the local, stores that were there, gone, because they can't compete. It's just an unfortunate world we live in now. So that's the first part of it. Do you see much risk for the companies offering bullion allocation? So as a result of that, I personally don't. I can sort of see what your thought process is behind it, but personally I don't, because those metals are yours that are in the vault. The most bullion companies that are allocation companies, they don't actually hold your bullion. You've got to understand that. They'll hire Brinks, like vaults from Brinks and some of the biggest security companies in the world, and they'll have accounts with those security companies. And these, Brinks and all you've got to think of these security companies. They look after the assets, the antiques, the artwork, and all this. Are some of the richest billionaires on the planet. So are they really just gonna? No, I just don't see it the way some other people see it. I think that metal that's in those vaults is your metal, and it's going to remain your metal, personally. Yeah. So I don't. I mean, if I saw risk, I wouldn't hold so much metal with these big security companies via someone like Bullion Vault or whoever. I mean, that's my video. Watch it. I use Bullion Vault, and I have different vaults around the world, just to diversify. Again, you've got that diversification is key with your assets. So this one's from Caleb Myers. Have you been able to purchase any Rolex like you attempted earlier in the year? So I don't own a Rolex watch personally, but I do think they hold good value. So do a lot of other watches. They do hold good value. And it's a large store of value in a very small item. But when you're traveling around a lot like I am, you don't want to have something that might be worth $40,000 or whatever, or when they start at $10,000. You wouldn't really want to have that just carrying around with you. Because remember, I've already got cash. I already have some metals. So I probably wouldn't want to have all these assets at the same time carried around with me, because then my risk versus reward is blown out a little bit. So that's my thought process around it. Anything else I can add to that? No, I think that probably covers it. So that is the questions. That was a quick one. That was only 46 minutes. So either the questions are getting easier or something else. Still a super chat from... Okay, let's see what we just got here. See if there's anything coming in. Okay. Yep, okay, thanks, Silver LTC. Any questions that are coming in? Any questions? I'm happy to answer a few questions. See if we've got anything coming in. Any questions coming in? No questions coming in. Okay. Well, I think, let's say, selling your bullion from just saying, screw you, I'm not giving it to you. No, they're not companies. These are like, well, they are companies, but they're security companies. Why would a security company all of a sudden say, some of them have been going 100 years. They've gone through these crises before. Why would they just say, no, we're not giving it to you? Okay, I should probably read the question before I start reading some out in future. All right, good. Thank you, everyone, for being online. Really appreciate it. I hope that helped today. And apart from that, I'll see you on the next month's Q&A. If you want to join in next time, you want to ask some questions, I'll leave a link below now so that you can actually do that and you can join in. All right, take care. God bless.